This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to another edition of the Voice of the Land podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold. Alongside me, as always, my brother, Nick Paulus, and our producer extraordinaire behind the proverbial glass, Peter Tillip. We are partnered, of course, with Web Streaming Studio by LPV Productions and NEO Sports Network. And, of course, our sponsor here in Season 4, DP Construction LLC. Reach out to them for all your concrete construction needs. 330-217-4999. That is 330-217-4999. Or hit them up on Facebook. See all the pictures of all the projects that Uncle Steve has completed. And our buddy Tyler LaFrada has set up for Uncle Steve to complete. And they got some beautiful pictures on there. You can like their page and also reach out for a quote through Facebook as well. And, of course, you can always find the podcast on all your major podcast platforms, Google, Spotify, Apple. We are on YouTube. You get to see our beautiful faces each and every single week on YouTube at Voice of the Land Podcast. Hit that subscribe, like, and turn on notifications there. You can always follow us on Twitter and Instagram at VTL_pod. Like us on Facebook at Voice of the Land. Paulus, you can find him on Twitter, have sports conversations with him at CLE_Paulus. Myself at Kevin7 because I always come in clutch at the end. Always come in clutch at the end. And, of course, you can find LPV Productions and NEO Sports Networks on all social media platforms. This week, of course, we have a lot to talk about, especially baseball-wise and football-wise, as the Indians are into the playoffs. They clinched their playoff berth this week. And the Browns just getting their season going, trying to get to 2-1, first time over 500 possibly since 2014. So some big things happening. And we'll touch on a little bit of fantasy, kind of give an update from our end of what we've seen.
Absolutely.
Or the crap that we've seen in our fantasy football
league.
The
injuries upon injuries has been ridiculous in the NFL so far this year.
I wasn't even going to go there.
Right.
I was more talking about myself and how bad I've been in all 5 leagues this year already. So, you got to take one on the chin sometimes. Of course, last night, though, coming off of another great CVC TV game that we had last night.
Yeah, how'd you like that game, Mr. Wycliffe?
Hey, I'm Mr. Blue Devil, okay?
You're Mr. Blue Devil, okay.
I was
last night you were, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was very professional.
Absolutely.
We did call Wycliffe versus Independence as Independence and Wycliffe came into the game 4-0 and undefeated in the CVC Metro Division. And Wycliffe hasn't been undefeated like that in a season in a long time. They haven't won a CVC title in a long time. And there was word that came out kind of after the game last night that they may have. We didn't mention it. I was getting technically they won a I don't know how Ohio High School Athletic Association and some of these conferences are operating with that with such a shortened season, everyone making the playoffs. Because I was reading some articles this morning, I didn't see anything about them actually winning that division title.
Just give them the title. I mean, they looked so dominant last night against a very good Independence team.
Yeah.
I mean, very balanced. I mean, you had Okay, this guy right here is the most prepared man in sports. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, you coming out with, stats on top of stats on top of stats for high school, football. It's ridiculous. This guy right here, for sure. But I'm telling you right now, Wycliffe was dominant last night. And, the CVC, game of the week, fantastic game. Had a lot of fun with it. 41 points in the first half. And then the running clock after that. So, nothing like that. And the only reason why they gave up any sort of points was because of a high snap on a punt, in the back of the end zone. And there was nothing, the kid could really do about that. I mean, the punt, it was snapped pretty high.
Yeah.
So, but Wycliffe, Fort Camp and Bala, those guys, and Bala's a quarterback.
Yes.
For Wycliffe, but that dude, straight up running back style. Averaging 154 yards rushing, for a quarterback, that's unheard of. And Didn't really pass a lot on the season before last night, but had 5 attempts, 6. Something
yeah.
along the lines of that. Completed all of them. Looked good throwing the ball too.
Yeah.
So I mean, Wycliffe. I mean, they can definitely get it this year for sure.
Yes, and I mean, and Bella had 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown last night. And I know on the broadcast, even their offense, that wing T, where they got so many different options, even the broadcasters get a little most prepared, as Paul has said. I appreciate those kind words for
Absolutely.
sure.
It's the truth.
But even the broadcasters get a little, with those triple option type things. Who really has the ball? Because it's Bella, it's Forkamp, and
It's tough.
and being from Wycliffe and kind of, I've worked with these kids before.
Yeah.
The thing about Bala is he played in middle school. I told you last night, he played 3 sports. He was running cross country, playing football, and playing soccer. And I coached him in soccer.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Bolin, their punter, kicker, running back, wide receiver, catching.
Mr. Everything.
Yeah, doing a bunch of everything last night. He was playing soccer as well and was a tremendous player for us, but also has that football skill too. And you just see that speed. You just see that natural athleticism from this senior group that have played together for so long. And, this is kind of this is the moment that they've been kind of working towards. And there's a lot of their buddies are on that offensive line, and they credit them. And you even saw Forkamp out in front blocking for Jacob Lewis last night and some other guys. So they're willing to sacrifice a play for their own stats to help someone else, do the play based on how the defense is set up. And, I guess, like I said, I didn't want to say anything on the broadcast last night because I wanted to make sure our goal every single time is to represent both schools, all student athletes, their coaches, the families as best as possible. And, I put in a little apology out on Facebook to my Wycliffe friends because I did credit Forkamp with one of the touchdowns that Bala did run in from 1 yard out last night. But, just because you want to make sure that these kids don't get an opportunity to be on TV very often, especially at the smaller schools, Division 6 and Division 7 for Wycliffe and Independence respectively. So these kids don't get that spotlight very often. And you want to make sure that you represent them and give them that opportunity, because when they go home and watch it, like, oh my gosh, like I was on TV. Oh, he didn't get
my name got called.
What, I scored that. Why did he give it?
Right.
So, just kind of like
scored that.
Yeah. but like that, like fun, like that, kind of joking,
sure.
like back and forth there. So just wanted to make sure, I did that at the end of the game, that did realize that. But honestly, I just wanted to, wrap that game up from last night here today on the podcast, because we were in the Independence crowd, and not that there's any sort of fear or anything like that of offending anyone, but it's representing, and Independence invited us into their stadium, and they were trying to go to 5-0 just like Wycliffe was. So we were, again, trying to represent both teams the right way. But in the back of my mind, that game meant a lot to me.
Sure.
For being from Wycliffe and my mom's side of the family being in Wycliffe for the better part of 60 years.
Wow.
And, remembering as a kid, you see little kids at high school football games, they're running around, they're jumping on like the high jump pad at different stadiums, or they're running around in different areas. They're not really watching the game. I was one of those kids that was sitting there watching guys like Chris Hoos and Corey Rojek, and even Coach Porcello last night, who was a quarterback for Wycliffe in the late 90s, running that same wing T offense that they're running today.
Yeah.
I was just in awe and just watching that. Now, of course, I never ended up playing football. I loved playing soccer, and we've given a lot of Wycliffe soccer love on.
Of course.
I've given a lot of love to the Wycliffe soccer team, the band. Volleyball's been doing tremendous this year as well. Their golf team, cross country teams have been doing great as well. So it's good to see small schools kind of have that ability to have those athletes getting out there. But it meant a lot to me personally for being so entwined in that community, and knowing how much football still means in that community. To be able to call that game and represent, with the Alumni Association not being able to, unfortunately, and I apologize to them. I mean, I know that having a couple broadcasts there did not allow those guys, Frank Fody, Mark Tennant, and Scott Tennant as well, who I consider Mr. Blue Devil, actually. But, they weren't able to get out there, so hopefully we represented you guys well, Independence well. And that game last night, in the back of my mind, I was dedicating to my grandfather, because he doesn't hear as well. And you can only really watch through the computer. They don't have smart TVs. So kind of waiting to see what he thought. My mom kind of left at Grandpa's house last night before the game was over, but I dedicate that to him because he is the one that really got me into.
That's awesome.
He was the first one to really get me into sports. He was listening to Bruce Drennan and some of those old school sports talk guys, and I would hear that around the house when I was a little kid, and it just stuck with me. And now I'm the one listening to sports talk and trying to get into it and doing all those things. So that was for him, and I hope made him proud, my grandmother up in heaven proud, and entire family and friends proud, but more so each community, Wycliffe and Independence. Hopefully we did a good job of showing the pride that those teams have put out there and the effort they put out all season long. And they're going to be tough outs in this playoffs for Division 6 and Division 7.
And I know, and just to wrap it up on my end over here, being able to sit on the Independent side last night, I mean, we had a lot of fun, calling the game. And I know that the parents and the kids on the team, devastating loss, 41-2, sort of loss, but all of the kids kept their head up, and I mean, they played a hell of a game. I know the score doesn't indicate it,
right?
But I mean, they were trying every. I mean, I told you they had that 60-yard. Wycliffe had that 60-yard run. They tore after that kid down. I think it was Bala.
Yeah,
almost had the touchdown. They tackled him,
ran him down from the left side to the right.
Absolutely. I mean, 100% effort out there. So I mean, those kids should definitely hold their head up high. The parents, we had one guy, sitting at, in front of us, reminded me of my dad so much because I remember playing high school football, and I always tell this story. Whenever you're out on the field, I don't know if it's the same for you as it was for me, but like you get so focused in on just the play ahead of itself. Like I tuned out everything. Like I didn't hear the quarterback, cadence calls or anything like that, audibles, anything like that. I'm literally just looking at the football and boom, and then I'm gone. The only time that I remember in high school football, I would only hear that, I'd only see that, but then I'd hear my dad in the stands, and like I could hear my dad in the stands above everyone else. Focus, get low. Like, and the guy ahead of us was just like that. I mean, yelling at the refs, I mean, he was going to town on the refs. He was going to town on the coach. Like, that's how my dad was. And like, I hope, whenever I have a son or a daughter, that's going to be involved in sports, I want to be that guy too, because it's just the passion, that brews out of you because it's your kid out there on the field. And, I mean, shout out to, I don't know whose parent, who the parent was, but, I mean, he came up to, after the game, he was like, I know it was a crap game, but you guys did a great call. So, we're very thankful to hear that. And I mean, I know the score doesn't indicate it, but we had a great time out there, and both teams should definitely hold their head up high.
Very well taken care of, and we appreciate all of the compliments we did receive after the game, and that's a credit to you and what you're doing out there, Paulus, and to our production crew, Peter, Jim, and Mike on the cameras. And so thank you guys for everything that you guys do to get those things going. And I never had parents like that. I mean, my dad would like talk to me after games, but I never heard him like during my soccer matches or my basketball games or anything. I knew I wouldn't hear my mom. My mom's just gonna my mom's just gonna sit there like this.
Yeah, my mom's kind of the same way. She just sits down and like I guarantee you, like my dad embarrassed my entire family. like I know that. My dad, focus. I remember my dad getting kicked out of a little league game. Yeah. Like we were in a championship little league game and he got kicked out. He saw me make the game winning tag because I was playing catcher, and kid tried to steal home on me. I tagged him out, and game-winning championship tag from the parking lot. And I saw, like, as soon as I tagged him, I see my dad like, going crazy out in the parking lot because he got kicked out the inning before. So, it's a fantastic time.
Yeah, it is. I do credit my dad as well for some of that. We talked about that many times. Credit our dads, our families for kind of who we are as sports fans, and even to a certain extent my mom, because she was just very quiet and she was just very supportive. So I always appreciated all of her support as well. I always knew when I got in the car after a soccer game there was going to be one question my dad was going to ask me. Why were you called for offsides? So I'd explain it. Next game, why were you called for offsides? still to this day doesn't understand the offsides rule, and I get it. Trust me, I get that.
Sure.
In the game of soccer, like the offside rule is difficult to understand because guess what? Referees don't really call it very evenly, like very consistently either. And you know, when you don't have the help of VAR, as they call it in soccer, video review, now that they've added that in, you know, in high school, it's difficult to kind of,
For sure.
you know,
Yeah.
especially when you only got one referee. Now, if someone's clearly offsides, I'm going to expect you to call it when I'm coaching on the sideline.
Right.
I'm going to make you know that I
course,
expect you
yeah.
to call that. I'm going to be like that dad, except for be a little bit more, you know, I guess subdued, so my kids don't, the players don't get too into it. But still, I mean, we appreciate everyone that did come out and support everybody that watched last night. If you watch it on replay, you know, we'll be back out there next week, week 6, already the final week. Technically, what is the final week of the regular season. Some teams will just play regular season games after they're out of the playoffs, but you know, week 6, and then you jump in, and
Yeah.
we always know high school football playoff time is always a big time. So we'll be seeing what happens with that and where we go forward with that. Switching gears a little bit, we will get back into football at the end of the podcast as well. We want to switch gears, though, and we want to focus on Indians baseball. And I'm rocking the GV Artwork shirt. I mean, like, this is my favorite shirt right here. And
It's a great shirt.
It is. I mean, they do some great work, you know. Sometimes you got to get the plug in. You know, you got your Bang energy drink, you got your second one.
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
Trying a new one in peach mango. How was it?
Fantastic. Amazing. Absolutely love it. I told you, before the pod, if I was still, had a couple of drinks or anything like that, this would go great with vodka. So I'm throwing that out there for everyone out there. So, if you ever want to try that, it'd be like the new Four Loko. Yeah,
Okay.
like a way better new Four Loko. How about that? So
the VTL podcast asked you to drink responsibly.
absolutely.
If you do drink, please drink responsibly.
Go drink and drive.
PSA from the Voice of the Land podcast.
There we go.
But speaking of things that are great, Indians baseball has been great lately. We know that their offense has been up and down, but they did clinch the playoffs, and they've clinched it. They clinched it in heroic fashion, and they've won on a walk-off 3 out of the last 4 games. And this team has that spark, that magical spark right now to clinch the playoffs. I mean, just some of the games, I don't know how many you've been able to see there, Paulus, but
Yeah.
I mean, just from your perspective, what have you seen from this team, and what do you think is driving this resurgence kind of at the end of the year after that rough stretch of 8 losses in a row?
Yeah, I really can't narrow it down to one thing. I mean, but everyone has been coming up clutch. Jordan Luplow, I mean, dude's hitting 200 on the year. And I mean, great double last night to get a run in, at the ninth inning. I mean, they only had 1 hit going into the ninth inning last night, and then they end up winning the game 4-3. I mean, it's one of those things where you just don't see it happen all the time, but it's a magical run, and we typically have this sort of run earlier in the year.
Yes.
I'm not talking like May time frame,
Right.
but like whenever we won the 22 straight, that was August, July to August time frame, and then we sort of ran out of juice at that moment in time. This kind of reminds me of 2016, whenever they started, coming up clutch, towards the end of the year and just transitioning all that great momentum into the playoffs. That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm not saying we're going to make the World Series. I know, our buddy Tyler is
He's
coming
giving
out.
you crap right now.
He is
on
coming
Twitter.
out after me because we had talked about this. The outfield has been horrendous all year long, and they're still not great. I'm not throwing that out there. There's been a lot of hit or misses in this lineup, more so misses than hits. However, the outfield, it just hasn't been playing up to snuff this year.
Right.
And I still think that we still are going to need that bat in order to make the World Series. However, they're coming up clutch right now. I don't want to, say, anything negative to, a team that's won 4 straight in a row and I mean, swept the White Sox.
Yeah.
It's been, 5 in a row,
Yes.
with the win over Pittsburgh last night. It's one of those years where you just start getting goosebumps at the right time. And I think that is probably it's one of those things where you just could see something magical happen in a weird 2020. Something magical might just happen for Cleveland.
Yeah, Peter. I mean, I don't know how many games you've been able to see, because I know we've been kind of back and forth with some of these games. I know you got a lot going on with everything you're doing with the production company as well. But
we joke about Mr. Everything.
Yeah,
this is Mr. Everything right here.
That's why we call him the producer extraordinaire. It's not just a running gag or anything like that. It really is. We appreciate everything you do. But I mean, being the big Indians fan that you are as well, I mean, just what are you seeing from this team to have that turnaround? What looked like that 8-game losing streak may kind of take them out of the playoffs, or kind of not. They're kind of the same story as every year. No momentum going in. They found that spark.
Yeah,
where's it coming from?
I was pretty worried actually with that losing streak, because I was like, oh man, they're collapsing. And the last couple games, like the walk-offs have just been amazing, because it's exciting. It takes me back to like the 95, 97 season, when it was just so much electricity. And obviously that was a different time, because you had sold out, Jacobs Field for, 430 some games, crazy number. And I was at a lot of those. But, so the energy is great. I'll agree with you guys on the outfield. Little concerned.
Sure.
I felt like there's just every now and then there's some lackadaisical, they're not hustling as much as you would expect. Frankie the other night, when he hit, he thought it was a home run, and it wasn't.
Yep.
And he just,
should have been a triple.
It should have been a triple. He should have run, and he didn't. He was just kind of watching it, and it's like, oh crap, it wasn't going out. That concerns me, because it is a short season.
Yeah.
They just dig in, blast through it. I'm glad that they've got this 5 in a row. Last night, honestly, after the football game, I went home, I uploaded the recording of it to YouTube for the CVC, and was checking out some other things, and I was so tired I went to bed, and when I got home it was 3-1. So
Right.
I missed that comeback. I woke up this morning, I looked at it, I was like, damn it.
They won?
I'm like they won? How did they do that? And it is funny though, because I'm going to jump right back to the CVC, because your mea culpa there on Facebook with your call, Scott Tennant. I'm like, I wonder if that's the same Scott Tennant that LPV's done some work for over the. It sure is, because I'm linked into him on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm like, wait, that's the same guy. Okay, so small world, right?
Right,
so
right. Oh yeah, Scott's everywhere. He really is Mr. Blue Devil. Trust me.
When you're I'm Mr. Everything, I'm like, yeah, well that makes sense. There, so, but no, it's I'm excited. And with the postseason coming up here, I'm excited and yet nervous to see who we're going to play. So.
Yeah. As much as Tyler wants to kind of dig in and like support the outfield, but more so kind of dig that knife in with you.
He only does it to me, just because he wants to get under my skin.
Yeah.
And I love Tyler to death, brother. I love him, but I mean that's the type of guy that we're dealing with right now. Yeah.
But we do base our takes on reality. We try not to. Yes, we are excited when the walk-offs happen. We are jumping up and down. We are the most diehard fan, some of the most diehard fans you're going to find, and we are energized by it. But we also try to take a step back once we react and see what's really going on. So, like Peter just said, the outfield still concerns me to a degree, and so does some of the bullpen, because those guys have been, especially in that 8-game losing streak, but also in a few of these games where, yes, the Indians have come back and it's been great and they've won the game, they still come back to win. The bullpen is coming in and giving up that crucial run or 2 runs that kind of lets the other team get the lead. And, you can't bank on walking it off every single time. You may have to play on the road before you get to the bubble. Who knows? The Indians, yes, they are, and we'll get to this more in a second, but they're within 1 game of the division with 2 games to play, where they could get the number 1 spot, and then they have home games. Or they could, stay and maybe lose the division by 1 game be in the third spot in the division and have to play in that 7 or 8 wild card spot and go somewhere else. So you may not get the opportunity to have that last at bat in the game. And you got to be able to trust that bullpen. Now, they've done well most of the season, but you don't want those bad habits like Frankie not running out of the box, some lack of hustle in the outfield, giving up runs coming out of the bullpen. You don't want those bad habits getting so close to the playoffs in a shortened season to play a factor in your chance to make a deep run or have an early exit. However, these last few games, and I think it's either 5 or 6 in a row. I think they won that last game in Detroit before they came home, and then won the 4 against Chicago, and last night against the Pirates. I know they went 3 for 4, I believe, against the Tigers in that series on their last road series.
It's 6 in a row.
6 in a row.
6 in a row.
So it's good to see that momentum kind of building going right into the playoffs instead of just before those last couple weeks when you really want to be playing your best baseball. That's what they have right now, and they still have the pitching staff, the starting rotation, to take them deep into the playoffs. And these walk-offs have been amazing. And imagine what Progressive Field would look like with the fans in the stands. And the fact that the clubhouse is able to generate that kind of energy, stay that locked in to win those games without that kind of that crowd noise, that crowd pressure on the opposing pitcher. They're able to generate that kind of energy to stay in the game and end up winning the game at the end. And it starts with Jose Ramirez, who is an MVP candidate this year.
100%. Yeah. He should be the MVP.
And then you have Cesar Hernandez, who has been a bright spot coming in, as much as I know Cleveland loved Jason Kipnis here, but Cesar Hernandez has been a godsend basically for the Indians there at second base. Lindor not having the kind of caliber of season of the type of player that he's capable of, but he's come through in a few moments here lately where it seems like he may be turning a corner, which is going to be important for the playoffs too. But once Jose got that big home run, that 3-run home run to walk it off, get them into the playoffs, then you see guys like Jordan Luplow who have been under the Mendoza line all year long. And you have, Cesar Hernandez, Naquin coming back.
Sure.
That outfield has not hit well all season. Naquin was the bright spot when he came back off an injury.
But then he went like 0 for 21.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't expect one guy to continue to carry the entire time. This is what you rather see is a different hero every single night, different guys coming through, and the energy feeding throughout the clubhouse. You don't want it to just be all on Jose so that you got to wait. He comes up third time in the order, and then you got to wait 9 more batters before he comes up again to try to do something on offense.
Hopefully someone gets on base and then he can knock him in or something.
Right. You can't bank on that. You can't bank on just Tyler Naquin leading that outfield. You need more guys to step up. You need DeShields to be the guy he was last night. He got a clutch hit in that 9th inning to score a run, and he broke up the no-hitter, not realizing it was a no-hitter. He talked to Andre Knott after that game. He didn't realize it was a no-hitter.
Right.
He just recognized the situation, and he knows his role as a speedster in that 9th spot is to get on base so that you turn it over to the top of your lineup, your top-heavy lineup, to then try to start driving in some runs. He understands his role, and now he's getting into playing his role. That needs to continue for this team.
100%.
And that transitions us right to kind of like where they stand right now. As we said, they're 1 game back of the division. I think they have them in the 3rd spot right now, just based on maybe tiebreakers or anything like that.
Yeah.
But White Sox lost last night.
Yeah.
And of course, we are recording on Saturday, so you may be hearing this after the Indians play Saturday against the Pirates. But the Twins lost to the Reds. Reds get in the playoffs last night. They may have been having, maybe breaking protocol a little bit based on
too much fun last night.
Trevor Bauer on Twitter. He's always a good follow, but he's got his camera kind of wrapped up in plastic wrap. I don't know if he's trolling or if there was a little bit more than just
could have been
more than just water in that clubhouse celebrating last night. And then the Cubs beat the White Sox. So Indians within 1 game with 2 games to play. Where do you see this team? Will they get to? Is there enough time in these 2 games with the matchups that each of the 3 teams have? Can they win the division? And then where do you see their playoff run going?
I think that they're gonna win these next 2 games against Pittsburgh. I really do. I mean, Pittsburgh's a terrible ball club. I mean, they are a triple A associate,
Right.
so as much crap as what we were giving like Miami at the beginning of the year. I mean, and Miami actually just made
Yeah,
the
they
playoffs.
just made it
Congrats to them. Congrats to them
Oh,
and
they-
Derek Jeter and all of those guys down there. Good for them.
I was beaming ear to ear just seeing that they took the team picture on top of the Yankees
Yes.
mound last night because I hate the Yankees.
Yeah.
I hate the Yankees.
Oh, of course.
Is there a team that you really want to face though that you see in the playoffs right now as well as part of this run?
Chicago. Like I mean I think we broke Chicago's soul, over the last 4 games, against them. I really do think that we broke their soul. So I mean I would love to face Chicago. It's not going to happen obviously. At least for the first round. I don't think it's going. Yeah.
Right. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But I would love to face Chicago. I don't want to face, and I know Houston and the A's. They've been struggling, over the last. I just don't want to face them. Like
I hope they face each other because that
right
based on their history, this
going
this short
at each
season,
other. I would love to see
That would
that
be
happen,
amazing.
but I don't think that that's going to happen. I did want to revert back to like the
Yeah,
MVP
right.
talk and everything like that. The team's MVP is actually just stepping in right now. Tito is coming back for this playoff run, and I got goosebumps right now because I feel like the magic is happening.
Right.
And I'm convincing myself as we're talking on this podcast right now, I'm convincing myself like I'm getting so hyped up for this. And maybe
Do you need a reality check right now?
we
Just-
might
just
fall
a-
flat on our face, in this wild card round. Who knows? But I'm telling you right now, getting Tito back in here is going to jumpstart everything. And Tito's just that dude, for us.
Right.
I mean, the moment moment we signed him 7 years ago or whatever it's been, I mean, he's changed the culture. I mean, he really has. He basically reverted back to the 90s culture there for us. And it's been a phenomenal upgrade.
Yeah.
We couldn't have picked a better manager. He is the best manager in the game. There's no doubt in my mind. But I think getting him back here with us, and Sandy did a great job. I mean, I'm looking forward to Sandy being our next manager after Tito, steps aside.
Right.
I hope it's not this year. I hope it's not next year, but I hope we get Tito as long as possible. But Tito is the MVP, and I know he's missed almost 50 games on the year, everything like that, but he's going to provide that spark,
Yes.
For us that could carry us all the way to the World Series, maybe even get our first World Series win since 48.
Well, with a spark that's already lit, I mean, Peter, that brings up a great point. What kind of impact do you think Terry Francona coming back to this team that's already on a great run going into the playoffs, what kind of spark can that now ignite for this team really going forward?
I think it's going to be great because it's, I love Sandy, but he's not Tito.
Right.
Right.
But no one is. So I think the way he manages and his personality with the club, I think that's just going to give him that extra push, and hopefully it does propel him to the World Series. I would love to see that. I mean, it's like we talked about this earlier in the season. It's a little weird because it's a 60-game season. It's a shortened season.
Yep.
Does it count? Hell yeah, it counts.
Absolutely.
And
they're playing, right?
They're playing.
There's
So-
There's a lot going into this season that you
Yeah.
got to overcome.
Honestly,
Oh, yeah.
this might be the toughest World Series to win. Because it's a shortened year and everyone seems to be healthy. Over 162 games, you're like, people get injured, there's a lot of nicks, injuries, everything like that.
Yep.
This might be the hardest one yet because of how healthy everyone going into it
Right.
probably
it's it's not even mid-season.
Right.
Game wise,
right.
right? So, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm excited about it. I think Tito coming back is just going to make them even better. Hopefully, it will ignite a spark to get the 1 through 5 hitters,
Yeah.
really
Right.
going, because it's been rough watching some of this. I mean, last night, the first hit was a push bunt in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
So that was, I heard that on the radio driving home. I was like,
Which is
oh,
like
man.
the worst way to break up a no hitter.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a Bush League sort of move. Like, I understand,
Do you believe DeShields that he didn't know?
hell no. No, like he knew.
The board's right there.
He knew.
The board is right in front of you.
He knew. Everyone knows.
That's a big scoreboard too.
Right. Yeah, you can't miss that. You can't miss that. No, he absolutely knew. It's a Bush League way of doing. I'm thankful it happened though, because I mean, it's what we needed. Obviously, you can't go into the playoffs getting no hit. That's just like the worst way to enter the playoffs. But he absolutely knew. He had to have known, right?
Yeah, well, and you look at that game too, and you think, well, Pirates are like the worst in Major League Baseball, and you should beat the Pirates, and there's no excuses if you don't. But there is something to be said about a team, even in a shortened season, that knows that they're way out of it. They have no chance at all, and now your mind just kind of goes back to the game that you've been playing since a kid, and it's just it seems like that stress just comes off of you. So you see that a lot in a lot of sports where teams that are on the cusp of a playoff run or trying to build that momentum into the playoffs, or they're maybe a game back, and they're fighting for something still, and they have to face a team at the end of the year that has nothing to play for, and they're just playing the sport that they love just to go out there and play it and just to finish out the season, and they just, you see those sometimes those upsets happen. There's no excuse for it. Trust me, there's no excuse for it. That's the reality, but it's still something that you see in sports, and it's kind of a unique thing. In terms of Tito, that is going to be a big thing because you've heard it in every single post-game press conference with every single player, and even Sandy has alluded to it too. They miss him, but I think it took a little bit of time for the players to kind of hear how Sandy approached the game and his voice, finding his way of not, kind of following Tito's model, but in his own light, because you don't want someone to be someone they're not. You don't want your manager, your coach to be someone that they're not, especially if they have to step in for someone. While it is very tough shoes to fill in Terry Francona in that manager role, Sandy Alomar has a lot of credibility within the Indians organization for what he did as a player and what he's done staying as a bench coach, first base coach, all of those things.
I mean, he could have been a manager anywhere else by now. He absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. But I think in his mind, he wants to stay here. He loves Terry Francona, and he would love to kind of help take it to that next step. If Terry Francona does have to step down, at some point in the future, and we hope that that's no time soon. But health is the most important thing. But with that spark already lit, and Sandy kind of helping this team get back on track, then Terry coming in because they missed him, I mean, that is going to be so impactful. And in all of this, we haven't even mentioned, like, probably someone that in a longer season, if they played the way that they have in the 60 games, may get some MVP votes themselves, the bona fide Cy Young of the year, Shane Bieber, who has been, but only pitching every 5 days. I understand where the pitchers don't,
and pitchers have won the world
because they have their award too. Is a lot of people's thing of why pitchers don't win MVPs.
I mean, Verlander won the award. It was like 5 years ago or something like that. The Cy Young and the MVP, and but just in a shortened year, right? I mean, it's a little bit tougher, I think.
Yeah, but he is. It's pretty much it's locked up at this point.
Yeah,
Bieber he's
like number one in everything. He really is.
And when we had Corey Kluber and some of those ace pitchers going into the playoffs, they've pitched so many innings going to that point. You just saw the fatigue in Kluber and not able to perform in the playoffs. They haven't even. I think he's pitched maybe 11, 12 games in the 60-game series or a 60-game season, and so these starting pitchers are still coming in fresh, and that arm is starting to actually get more loosened. Like, I would feel like more warmed up. I'm not sure, not as well versed on kind of that element there of how pitchers feel throughout a year, but it's kind of like right in the cusp of the middle of the season when you really start to hit that peak in the regular season.
Oh yeah, and I think once again, Peter, brought it up. I mean, we're not even at the halfway point of of your typical year. I mean, at this point in time, we'd be in like June. So I mean, the pitching itself, Shane Bieber, I mean, he's going to win the Cy Young, it's for sure. I mean, he has a good opportunity to win the MVP because no one's really run away, in the American League with great batting stats or anything like that. I mean, Jose's third in just about everything right now. I mean, third in home runs, third in RBI, I believe. I mean, he's batting 288, 290, right around there.
Abreu from the White Sox is the be kind of the sexy pick, as they say
Sure.
right now, for MVP. But
Yeah.
Ramirez is making a case, and he's made a case all year,
Yeah.
but especially late and coming
Right.
through in the clutch. I think we can all agree, as we kind of wrap things up here with the Indians, that while the walk-offs have been exciting and there is a spark, there's a certain energy that you just can't explain right now with this team, which has us more excited about playoffs and what they're capable of doing in this kind of playoff run. More guys have to continue to step up. Reyes needs to hit better. Santana needs to hit better.
Santana and like Anthony, our buddy on the
Mm-hmm.
fantasy, always gives me crap because I really like Carlos Santana. I
love Carlos Santana.
I love Santana. However, he is hitting 190. Yeah,
Right.
like this is one of those moments where it's like put up or shut up moment.
You can't have your cleanup hitter
You
hitting.
can't have that happen.
You can't even have them hitting 220.
Right. And this is Santana has the opportunity right now to step up, just in time for the playoffs and start making some clutch hits. And I think he has the opportunity. I think he's going to do it.
Right.
I have this just gut feeling, a good feeling right now that he is going to step up and start hitting better. All I'm asking for is 250. You hit 1 for 4, get a double, get on base.
And
we
those
know he can
walks.
get those walks are so crucial. I mean, his on base percentage is typically through the roof. I haven't seen what it's at lately, but I mean, he's just that dude. He has the best eye in baseball.
Right.
He really does. If he can just start connecting on a couple more pitches, I think that would be through the roof there for us.
Yeah, so more guys need to step up. Lindor needs to continue kind of breaking out of his slump that he's been in. And you can't bank on, again, walking it off every single time. You can't have that energy just in the 9th inning. Now you need to take that spark and bring it from first inning through 9th inning. Try to get those timely hits. I'm not looking for some 13-run,
Right.
10-run game or inning like they had early on in the season, and then they'd go quiet for a while. I'm looking for consistency, 4 to 5 runs a game, and those timely hits that give your starting pitcher more confidence. When they go out there, they keep that other team off the board, and that fuels that energy. When they have to pitch perfect, and we saw that early on this season too, when they have to go out there and pitch perfect, it was that 1 or 2 mistakes that was costly, and the Indians wouldn't even score a run, maybe one, and it was like 2-1, 3-1, and it was just that one mistake because your starting pitcher pitched so well, but they wanted to pitch so perfect to keep the team in it, to give them that one chance to get that one run to win the game. Now you get a few timely hits, a few timely runs throughout a game. Starting pitcher's like, well, I don't have to think I got to keep a 0. I'm just gonna go throw my stuff, and my stuff's better than what you can hit, and I'm gonna take care of you.
Right.
You're gonna go back to your dugout.
Yep.
And that's just
100%.
That's just the way it's got to be. So Indians, we think we expect some big things. It's just they have to continue and just little by little. It doesn't have to be extensive every single night. Just little by little, and you got the starting pitching to really take you far. And thank you so much. And prayers out to Terry Francona for his health, but thankful that he's able to come back in this season and enter that bubble that they're in right now, so that they can travel around the country and go into the Major League Baseball playoff bubble here soon. But switching gears, of course, back to football, as we kind of started the podcast with a little bit of it. High school version, we're jumping all the way to the pros because there's not a whole lot of college just yet. We'll get into that in October, and some big things to coming for the Voice of Land podcast in October. Trust me, big things are coming. We got to keep it on the down low right now because we
Stay
don't.
tuned.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We just don't know when we can announce it yet,
Yes.
but big things are happening for us, and that is a credit to Peter as well for everything he's helping with, and you'll know more about that later on. But with professional football, Cleveland Browns looking, as we said at the beginning of the podcast, to go over 500 for the first time since 2014, and they are taking on the Washington football team. Former Ohio State greats Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin will come in to
Chase Young as well.
Chase Young on the edge, and that front seven for Washington is
For real.
for real. They got a really good defense over there, but so you got some Buckeyes coming in back into the Buckeye State, trying to get that win. Browns trying to go over 500. Some injuries in that defense that's already been giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points this year, and especially on that back end in the defensive backfield. Paulus, your expectations for Sunday. What do the Browns need to do to kind of build off of their offensive output on a week and a half ago on that Thursday night game against the Bengals, and take it to that next step to keep the offense consistent, but also kind of have, give themselves a little bit more breathing room during the game, get more defensive stops in the game?
Right now, all I'm looking for, because I think that you can pass on Washington. I think that they are going to load the box. They're going to try and stop Nick Chubb. They're going to try and stop, Kareem Hunt. So the MVP of this game, if we're going to win, has to be Baker. And I'm not saying he needs to go out and throw for 300. He doesn't. He absolutely does not need to do that. Once again, he only needs to 25 and under pass attempts is what I'm looking for. However, the play action game needs to be as strong as ever. I asked you, before we started on the podcast, the receiving yard leader, for the Browns right now is Jarvis.
Bless him.
And he only has
guy.
8 receptions for 107 yards. So, I mean, Baker's been spreading the ball out a lot, and that is something that is key here for us. Once again, Nick Chubb is going to need to break off a couple of big runs. I'm not talking 88 yarders, 92 yarders, nothing like that. I would love that to happen.
Yes.
I'm sure my wife would love that to happen
Chubba wubba hub.
because she has him on fantasy. But I think for me personally, like, Baker has to be the leader that we expect him to be. And once again, I know did we come up with any production value for the Baker Love meter?
The Love. Well, not yet, because they haven't had a game. We said
that's true.
We can't do it until we can start reacting to games.
We'll do that eventually, down the road. But I'll tell you right now, live reaction, maybe. However, Baker right now, like, I'm at like a 7 with Baker right now.
Okay.
Like, I like you, I'm not in love with you, sort of thing. Like, I really like what you did last week, but I need to see more consistency out of him. I really do believe that this is an opportunity here for us that he'll. I'm asking for 220, 230, something like that, and just crush the spirits. I need first downs. That's how you are going to beat this Washington team, is by crushing their spirits early. And I really do believe if you get up early on them, you'll be able to, just beat them down rushing the ball. Because, I mean, with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb,
right?
I mean, you have fresh legs. All throughout the game, you're going to have fresh legs. And that front 7 for Washington is the real deal. I mean, they're coming in this year with 11 sacks. I believe that leads the league so far. They had 8 sacks the first game. So it's a little, a little skewed towards them. But I would love to see Baker be the MVP for this game and just spread the ball out. Just spread the ball out, get a couple of touchdowns. That would be awesome. But I think that you can definitely get some yardage on this Washington team.
Peter, I mean, you're rocking the brown shirt this week. You had the Indians. You had some kind of ode to the Indians in Cleveland last week. Kind of gave some good vibes to the baseball team. You got the brown shirt going. What do they got to do to get to that 2-1 record and just take this week by week, but try to get over 500? First time in 6 years.
Well, I agree with Nick. I mean, they really have to have the play action working. They can't rely. They're not going to be able to rely on Chubb and Hunt to carry the ball and carry the team.
Yeah.
Because Washington's everyone, and not just Washington, everyone's going to expect that. So you've got to, but you've got to establish a run game. You've got to get the passing there. I mean, I'm a little concerned about Chase Young because he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, he is.
And it's another one of those, God, I hate it when we have to play against a Buckeye because Ohio State churns out some top talent.
They turn out pros.
They do.
100%.
And the problem is
best of the best.
There's not enough of them on our team.
Yes.
That's the problem.
That's true.
So it's
we're going for more of that LSU vibe, I think. Yeah. Like we're trying to get greedy. Like Greedy's killing me right now. Like I'm sorry to cut you off, Peter, but Greedy's killing me right now. Being out another game here for us, we need you. And like I don't know exactly what's going on, but soft tissue injuries, everything like that. it's killing me not having Greedy out there.
It's a rough go right now for the defensive Tigers.
Yeah.
The offensive Tigers, we got them going. But
We're good with that. Yeah.
them
No,
Tigers.
but
Go Tigers. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Wow, that just went way off the road.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just hear Ed Ogeron's voice in my head as soon as we hear.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I say LSU.
No, I get it. No, but like I said, I agree with Nick. Though they've got to get the play action working, and Baker has to step up and really lead the team. I mean, that's if it's his to do, right? It's right there for him. He has to step up. Shows the maturity, lead the team, and I think we should be able to win this.
And you know that Kevin Stefanski has not put those captain patches on anybody. It's like different captain each and every single game, the one that goes out for it.
Yeah.
Because he's letting the guys know that each one of you have a chance to lead, and each one of you have moments where you need to be the ones to step up, whether lead by example or lead vocally. And one of the main ones that needs to lead all the time is Baker Mayfield. And again, you may consider him, if he's not throwing for over 300 yards and getting all these highlight passes through the air, these deep passes like he had to Jarvis in his rookie year against Carolina, and the one against Cincinnati to OBJ. You don't need all of that. And you may consider him a game manager, the way that kind of people put a negative connotation on that.
Yeah.
I'm actually, and this might seem weird, but I'm okay with my quarterback being a game manager for how I see a game manager. A game manager as a quarterback is someone that is going to get everybody in the right position, going to check to the right play, going to make sure that even if they have a rough series, the next time they come out, or if he throws a pick, the next time he comes out, he is going to make a play. So everybody else is going to follow suit. If they make a mistake, they're going to pick their head up and they're going to follow suit. Being that captain of the offense, of the team, being the extension of the coach. That's who I see a game manager being. I know what the actual meaning of game manager is, and that's not what we want here in Cleveland. We want the flashy plays. We want the guy with the big arm. We want 350 yards of game and all of that. I want the game manager, the game leader that gets everybody in the right position and understands, just like Jarvis and OBJ said this week, they know that their bread and butter is Hunt and Chubb. And every team knows that coming in. If this offensive line plays like they did against Cincinnati, against every other team, and the other team knows what your best thing is, and you still run it down their throats, that shows what kind of team this is, what kind of leaders you have on this team to know these are our bread and butter. We're going to use them. And when we get a chance, we are going to operate to perfection or almost to perfection with the run, pass, option type offense and with the play action fakes, because we know how good Baker is at that kind of offense and getting out on the run. And it's just, if you can continue what you did against Cincinnati, that's key. The main piece of that to make sure everybody's in the right position on the same page is Baker Mayfield.
100%. And once again, and great, good call bringing up Chase Young. I mean, dude's been a stud so far. The first two games. I mean, let's not say he's the greatest thing of all time, but he is solid. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
Came from the Buckeyes. Obviously, we know we're going to rep him. But that is going to be a very good battle between Jedrick Wills and Chase Young. And I am very much looking forward to that because Jedrick has played amazing so far. Switching from the right tackle to the left tackle, from college to the pros is one of the toughest moves you can possibly do. And being the backside help of, for Baker is, it's just one of those things where it is, it's necessary. I mean, we absolutely need to have studs like that out there. And I think Jedrick is going to play, pretty well. He's going to need some help. I mean, let's be honest. I think Harrison Bryant is probably going to be out there, chipping him and doing a lot of things that we need them to do. Hooper as well, but I really do think that the offensive line can step up for that. Baker, the way that I put it is, I would love to see Baker be that game manager this year and then take that next step next year.
Right. I'm
not asking for Peyton Manning. I'm not asking for Joe Montana. Tom Brady. I would take Alex Smith. Alex Smith of Kansas City, I would take that. Borderline Pro Bowler, right around there, 25 touchdowns. I mean, he was excellent. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at some of his stats right here. I mean, his last year with Kansas City, he was 9-6 on the year and had over 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. I mean, I would take that all day for Baker, but he's always going to have more interceptions because he's more of a gunslinger.
It's that Brett Favre type where,
of course,
but got picked off. I'm gonna throw it again. I'm gonna throw it.
Right,
I'm gonna throw that ball
no
again.
fear.
Yes.
And I love that about Baker. But you do need to eventually play smarter.
Yes.
And if he went to that Alex Smith mold, I would take that because I think that you can win a championship with that. Yeah, I mean, you got to have a lot of other things going along for you as well. That things that Kansas City didn't have back then. I mean, you need to have a better defense than what we have right now. And whenever we get healthier, I think that we're going to have a decent defense. Not an all-time great Ravens Steelers defense, but a solid defense, I think. And that's down the road. But for this year, I think that Baker just needs to, just play within himself. Do the play action game once again tomorrow is going to be needed so badly because this front seven for the Washington football teams, man, I did that once last week. I need to get a little bit better with that.
Don't worry, there's a lot of shows doing that. Because now you're saying it so often, and now like the mind is just like because you're.
They need to come
so
up with a mascot, like Washington. Come up with something right now because I am dying over here. So I need that to happen. But
just get like a red and gold football, whatever their colors are. Well, I don't even know what they call their. Is it red and gold?
A maroon, maybe.
I'm colorblind, so I don't know. I don't know.
But I am very much looking forward to tomorrow's game. I do expect to win. I definitely expect to win. They, have to come here. Obviously, there's no fans, in the stands or anything like that.
6,000.
Okay. So 6,000 fans in the stand compared to the 66 we would normally have, so 66,000. But
6,000 is better than nothing.
That's true. That is true. I do expect to win. I'm going to make a prediction for it.
Yes, you are Predictor Paulus.
I am.
Let's get back into that.
Yes.
Paulus, your game prediction, Cleveland Browns versus the Washington football team tomorrow at 1 p.m. at First Energy Stadium. Paulus, you have the floor.
27-23 Browns. I think that right now there's a spread. I think the Browns are favored by 7. I don't think that they cover that. No. I think that the defense just is going to give up way too many yards.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'm okay with that. I think Scary Terry McLaurin,
and if
who
Denzel
you have on
Ward
your
doesn't play,
right, and Terry McLaurin, you have him on your fantasy team. Absolute start. For everyone out there, you absolutely start Terry McLaurin tomorrow because I think he's going to have over 100 yards, probably a touchdown as well. So the guy is going to ball out of his mind. It just depends on how much pressure we can get on Haskins. And I think Miles is going to have a really good game tomorrow. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Miles said this week that he wants to be the best player on the field every single week, and he wants to be and I think it's because there's conversations about Chase Young and kind of what he's done in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
He's kind of getting more of the spotlight. Myles Garrett has been able to do those things already. So he wants to go show that he is the dominant defensive end over Chase Young. Chase Young is not at his level just yet. Got to get a couple years in him just like Miles has.
Yeah.
But for Baker, it does have to be, again, just staying within the offense and keeping everybody on the same page. And as long as he can have that gunslinger mentality, and this year's all about getting that swagger back. It's all about getting that Baker swag back that we saw at Oklahoma and in his rookie season.
Yeah.
It's about getting that Baker back. And if he is throwing some interceptions, but he's still contributing to wins, you can live with some of that because you're winning football games. He is a reason you're winning football games, and it is more like that Brett Favre mentality and not the long list of quarterbacks of the past here in Cleveland where they just throw interception after interception and there's no rhyme or reason or sense of actual offensive continuity.
And let's be honest, the interceptions matter 100% for sure.
Yes,
Obviously,
yeah,
a
they
turnover
do.
is a turnover. But it's like, when does that turnover happen?
Yes.
Is it in the fourth quarter whenever you're down, or if you're up by 21 and you're just trying to get greedy?
Yeah.
You know,
He got a little greedy.
He got greedy last week.
With Bryant. He had to
Yes.
sidestep a defender coming in. He threw it late, and that's Harrison. I saw the all 22 of that.
he was open.
That and the cut that he made, the route that he ran was a great route.
Yeah.
It was a half a second late.
Yep.
And Baker did have to avoid the defender kind of diving his legs.
Yeah.
And he didn't step up soon enough. So that's on Baker to throw that a half a second sooner. But he got greedy, and they were up in that game, not down in that game, and continuing to throw picks, and got down because he threw picks early in the game either.
Yeah, and it's all about when it happens.
Yes.
He's going to throw interceptions.
Yep.
Every quarterback does.
It's reality.
It is reality. But we need to make sure that it is... If you're up by 14, with 3 minutes left, and you're just trying to get that extra score, like, okay, cool. That's fine. Patrick Mahomes does that a lot. I mean, he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, but the interceptions he does throw, it's because they're up by 21. So if we can get that sort of momentum, I'm not saying Baker needs to be Patrick, but if we can just get up by 21 and throw an interception, okay, that's fine. But be smart.
Yeah, be smart with it. Take the
smart.
chances when you kind of maybe have an opportunity to be a little bit more risky, to work on something downfield a little bit more.
The interceptions that kill us are like the ones that we had against Seattle last year, whenever it was the game-winning, a possible game-winning drive here for us. Let's go down the field. I mean, they were up big in that game, and then they relinquished the lead, and then it was, okay, Baker, you got to take us down the field and win it. And literally the first throw of that drive intercepted. It tipped off the hands of someone, intercepted.
Yeah, and through the first two games as well, I mean, I have to give some credit to Coach Stefanski as well. I know he was mic'd up this last game, kind of liked what I heard. And we talk about how we don't want to just hear them say, we want to hear them execute. Well, he's talking while they're executing actual plays. Like, he's kind of doing that. And what he's saying in press conferences after games about, people are trying to, give glowing remarks to Jedrick Wills. He's saying, well, yeah, he's played well and he's progressed like we think he should, but he is a rookie and he's going to make mistakes, just like I'm going to make a mistake as a coach. We haven't won anything, so we're not going to just kind of throw bouquets of flowers at people. That's what you like to hear. One note on this game that we do need to mention: tomorrow's game on Fox, Washington football team against the Browns will mark the first regular season game. This according to Sam Rappaport, mark the first regular season game in NFL history to have a female coach on both sidelines and a female referee.
That's awesome.
In the game. And that's what you love to see. And in a world and in a time where we are trying to, see progress and equality for all, I mean, we know a lot of women in our lives that know a lot about football that
absolutely.
And these women have earned that right, and there should be more in the game and more women in
there
in the
will
NBA.
be. There absolutely will be.
And this is just that first step, and hopefully it's the first step among many that happen. You don't have 10 years or so in between. It's years in between, and you keep making these marks, and then it just becomes a regular thing. And we don't have to say it's the first time that this has happened. It's the first.
Right.
We want to get to that kind of point. Quickly, as we kind of wind down here on the podcast, we got about 5 minutes left. Just enough time, I'd say, because I don't really want to spend too much time on where fantasy has gone this year.
Yeah.
But, Paulus, how is your fantasy football season going, even inside our league or any other league that you're in?
Yeah, so I'm in 2 leagues. I'm 1-1 in one of the leagues, the smaller league there for us. I like my team. I got Kyler. I got Kyler in both leagues. But it's going well for that one. For the one that you and I are in, I am 0-2 right now, but I do have the third most scored points. There for us. I've just faced the 2 people that have had the most points scored against me. So it's been rough, going up against that. 183 points. Well, actually 183 for both weeks went up against me. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to duplicate that.
Right.
Therefore, so I am 0-2. However, you and I did a trade earlier this week. You were hurting bad because Saquon Barkley, the injuries that piled up in week 2 last week were unheard of.
And it's prayers out to those players too.
Absolutely.
People that were I hated going on Twitter
Yeah.
at the end of those games, because people were like, "Oh my gosh, no, my fantasy team is shot. Like, why
Right.
can't you stand the
Sure.
like those kind of
That's-
things, those kind of
yeah.
idiots that we've
Of
talked about
course.
many times
Yeah.
on Twitter. It's just ridiculous. Prayers out to those players, because you don't want to see that happen at all.
Yeah, and I'm watching Red Zone, and like literally every 2 seconds, someone's injured. Everyone's pulling up with knee injuries or a
Yeah.
foot or an
It's
ankle.
sad.
Or
It was sad to see. It was sad to watch.
the San Francisco 49ers lost like 11 people last week,
Yeah.
and they still beat the Jets 31-13, which is the funniest thing.
I think that says a lot.
That
about
says
the
a
Jets this
lot more
series.
about the Jets than does anyone else. And like, I know as a Browns fan, we're not supposed to like Sam Darnold. You know, we're not supposed
Right.
to. I feel terrible for that guy.
I do.
That
I do.
dude is playing with Division II talent
Yep.
out in the NFL. That guy is going to get killed
Mm-hmm.
out there. It's because Adam Gase has no idea what he's doing. How he still has a job, how he wasn't fired after after this last these last couple of games, I will never know. It goes the same for Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn should have been fired. He shouldn't have been allowed on the tarmac back, to get back to Atlanta
Oh my
last
goodness.
week after that blown loss to
Why
to the
don't you go
Cowboys.
get that ball? It's a live ball. Even for
No idea.
Atlanta or Dallas has to wait for it to go 10 yards. Atlanta,
Atlanta,
you don't have to
you
wait.
don't have to wait. Like that was the dumb.
I don't-
just
I
the
don't care
dumbest
how
move
short.
I've ever seen. And Stephen A. Smith said it the best. He's like, I don't think I've ever seen a dumber team. Like how do you? I don't get that. Everyone knows like your only job on that kickoff return, the hands team, is to get that ball and secure it. And within that 10 yards, like they must not have been taught that. And I don't know how you make the NFL and you're on the hands team and not know that rule.
That's a known rule across, like, going through all levels of
Everywhere.
football. So, like, I don't care how short training camp was and, like, how many, how little the special teams got put together because you're cutting down rosters without seeing them in games. I don't care about that. You should know within those 10 yards, let's finish this game. I want to win in the NFL this week. I want to go 1-1 instead of 0-2. Let me go get that ball. It's right in front of me.
I don't know. And Julio was out there too. I don't know why Julio wasn't
Oh,
jumping at
that's
that
a
ball
great
either.
sign for the trade I just made with you.
And I was gonna say that the trade that Kevin and I made this week, because you were hurting real bad for a running back. I mean, you only had like I think 3 on your roster. Saquon was one of them. Saquon tears his ACL. Prayers to Saquon. Prayers to that whole Giants team, because
Yes.
I mean they are
Giants team.
They are in some
49ers.
rough luck right now.
Yeah.
49ers as well.
Browns defense.
Browns defense. But we did make a trade last week. I sent Julio and J.K. Dobbins for Nuke for Hopkins.
Yep.
Now Hopkins. The reason why I did that was because the only trade that I was going to make was to get Hopkins, because I have Kyler and I need that connection. I couldn't stand watching Kyler not throw, keep throwing to Hopkins, and I'm looking at Julio, and I'm like, and Julio has played, the first game of the year. I mean, had 157 yards, 9 receptions, great job. But the way that I look at it is like, I think that I thought it was an even trade. Because I'm giving you Julio. Now, I think Hopkins has higher upside than Julio, obviously, but I'm giving you Dobbins because I'm not going to be able to play Dobbins.
Right.
So, and I think, and you absolutely have to, and I think he is going to win that starting job for Mark Ingram here within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And if that happens, you got a bona fide top 10, top 12 running back on your team now.
I was surprised they didn't use him much last week.
He only had three touches, which was crazy, but he still turned out 8 points. With 3 touches, he had 8 points. He had like a 48-yard run.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good player. He's a good player. I think he's going to do well for you. But both of our teams, I mean, we're both 0-2 in the league right now, and we were hurting.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm in 5 leagues, and I shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be. I may have a problem. But I'm kind of like 1-1, 0-2, 2-0. Like there's like kind of
a couple of different ones.
It's spread across actually. So it's kind of I guess an even distinction there as I look at it. It's not as bad as I try to make it out to be, but that league, especially with our buy-in, it's rough to be 0-2.
Well,
in that league.
and once again, make sure you set your lineups. Make sure no matter what, because once again, we do have a loser payout. not
Right.
not like not paying or anything like
Right,
that.
a loser that pays out towards the group in some sort of fashion.
Right.
Like,
Like Scotty this
Yeah.
past year, for the draft was wearing a dress.
Yeah.
Because he and Scotty's team, like I don't know, like Scotty's all over the place. I think you can get yourself straight because once again, I like your lineup.
Yeah.
But it's just you just need help with now that Saquon's out, like
Yeah.
you're gonna need some massive help.
It's
with the running back spot.
It's the running back spot there, and in my other league, that's kind of the other big payout that I have that I really focus on.
Yeah.
In my Yahoo league, facing one of my former soccer parents, basically our family at this point.
Sure.
Dave Storr, I'll give you a shout out. Facing him this week, he is they are Steelers fans, but they do come from that area. Like both of them are from Pennsylvania,
And that's fine.
the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
area, and they've migrated to Wycliffe, and they're a great family, great kids too, and they kind of came out to support my game last week, coaching last week, so I was kind of very honored and humbled to have them and their kids coming out to support that. He has the running back for Jacksonville, that James Robinson that's kind of taking over
tore
for.
up on Thursday night.
Yeah, he already has 30 points. He's already got 30 points up on the
Yeah.
board to start this week. So it
Could be worse. You could have been Matthew Berry and played against him, but
Yeah.
started Gardner Minshew, who only had like 6 points.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
like be thankful that you didn't
Yeah.
start Gardner Minshew. Which
Yeah, I mean, I picked up Gardner Minshew on a waiver wire just as
Sure.
like a backup quarterback
Of
to
course.
see if it would kind of continue.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like gauge it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you don't only need a backup quarterback 1 week. You're going to ride your starter for most of the season. It's just
for
a
the
bye
most
week.
part, yeah.
But yeah, I'm already down 30 points. So probably welcome to your first win, Dave. Great job this week. But with that all being said, that is going to wrap it up. Not too much time that we need to dwell on fantasy this year.
True. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Fantasy voice is just. If we pick things back up, both of us, we'll be
sure,
boasting about our teams. Don't
I'm
worry.
sure we will be.
Yes. But for my brother, Nick Paulus, and our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tellep, this has been the season 4, episode 7?
Yeah.
8. Wow, I lost track. We may not be counting episodes sometime
might
soon.
not be.
So, but for this episode in season 4 for the Voice of the Land podcast, I am Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you sports fans out there, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. And we love you all 3,000. We will see you all next week.